There are moments in life that don't just hurt, they restructure you. They rearrange something deep inside, and from that day forward, you are simply not the same person who sat down at that table. This is one of those stories, and I want you to stay with me here, because by the end of this video, what I'm about to share isn't just about family pain. It's about money, self-worth, and the dangerous way those two things get tangled together in ways most people never see coming. So don't go anywhere. My name is Dr. James, your money advisor, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is the place where we talk about real financial freedom, not the fake, glossy version they sell you in ads, but the kind that starts in your mind, in your identity, and in the stories you've been told about who you are and what you deserve. Hit that subscribe button, because what we do here goes deeper than spreadsheets. Now, let me tell you about a Sunday dinner that changed everything. Picture a family table, big family, loud voices, the smell of food in the air, kind of dinner that looks perfect from the outside. There's a woman, let's call her Maya, sitting at that table, 28 years old, hardworking, smart, trying her best. She's been going through a rough financial patch, lost a job, made some bad investment decisions, had to move back home temporarily. And at this dinner, the conversation turns to her sister, her older sister, who has a stable corporate job, a nice car, a house with a mortgage she's paying on time. And right there, in front of everyone, her father looks at Maya and says, "You're not half the woman your sister is." The room goes quiet. Maya doesn't yell. She doesn't cry. Not right there, anyway. She just slowly pushes her chair back from the table, stands up, and walks out. Now, I want to pause right there and ask you something. Have you ever had a moment like that? Maybe not those exact words, but a moment where someone, a parent, a partner, a boss, a friend, used your financial situation to define your entire worth as a human being, where your bank account became the measuring stick for your value as a person. Because if you have, I need you to understand something that took me years of studying behavioral finance and money psychology to fully articulate. That moment doesn't just hurt your feelings. It rewires your relationship with money, and not in a good way. Here's what happens in the brain when someone attaches your identity to your financial failures. Your nervous system logs that experience as a threat, not just an emotional threat, but a survival threat. Because at the most primal level, belonging to your family group is survival. And when a parent tells you that you are less than, what your brain hears is, you are not safe here. You do not belong. You are at risk. And from that point forward, money stops being a tool. Money becomes a weapon, either the weapon being used against you or the weapon you desperately try to grab to prove everyone wrong. Maya walked out of that dinner and did something that millions of people do after a moment like that. She started making financial decisions from a place of emotion, not strategy. She started chasing income and status symbols, not because she had a clear financial plan, but because she needed to silence that voice, her father's voice. You're not half the woman your sister is. She took on a second job, not for savings, but for significance. She started spending on things that looked successful because she needed people to see her winning. Designer items, a car she couldn't fully afford, vacations she put on credit cards just so she could post them. Does any of this sound familiar? I'm not judging Maya. I'm describing a pattern I've seen hundreds of times in my work as a financial advisor. It's called compensatory spending, and it is one of the most common and most destructive financial behaviors that comes directly from childhood wounds around money and worthiness. See, here's the thing, your parents, even the well-meaning ones, often don't understand. When they compare you to a sibling using financial outcomes, they're not just making an observation, they are planting a belief system, and that belief system will silently govern your financial behavior for decades if you don't identify it and dismantle it. Maya's sister had a stable job and a mortgage. Good for her, genuinely. But what Maya's parents never saw, what they never asked about, was that Maya had been quietly building a freelance business for 2 years. She had skills, she had clients, she had a vision. She was in the messy middle of something that hadn't paid off yet, but it was real. And instead of being asked about that, instead of being supported through the hard part of building something, he was dismissed, compared, diminished. And here's the financial truth that nobody at that dinner table understood. The sister with the corporate job and the mortgage, she was building someone else's dream on a schedule someone else set. Maya, she was in the process of building her own. The outcomes look different in year 2. They look very different in year 10. But Maya almost never made it to year 10 because after that dinner, she almost quit. She almost gave up on the business and went and got a real job just to make her parents nod in approval. She almost traded her actual financial future for the appearance of one. This is what family comparison does to your money. It makes you optimize for their approval instead of your own strategy. And approval is a terrible financial advisor. Now, let me bring this back to you, because I don't tell stories just for the drama. I tell them because every single story I share on this channel has a lesson embedded in it, and this one has several. The first lesson is this: your financial timeline is not your sibling's financial timeline, and it is not your parents' financial timeline. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make, especially people who grew up in households where money was tied to love and approval, is that they try to hit milestones on someone else's schedule. Buy a house by this age, get married by that age, have a certain salary by this year, and when they don't hit those markers on time, they feel like failure. They feel like they are less than. But financial success is not a race with a universal finish line. It is a personal journey with a strategy designed specifically for your life, your risk tolerance, your income streams, and your goals. The second lesson is, emotional spending is a symptom, not a problem. If you find yourself buying things you don't need to feel a sense of worth that someone took from you, that is not a budgeting failure. That is a wound. And you don't heal a wound with a spreadsheet. You heal it by going back to that moment, that dinner table, that conversation, that look on someone's face, and separating what happened from who you are. Your net worth is not your self-worth. Write that down if you have to. Put it on your bathroom mirror, because until you believe it in your bones, you will keep making financial decisions that are actually emotional decisions wearing the costume of logic. The third lesson, and this is the one I want to spend the most time on, is about the power of slow movements. Maya pushed her chair back slowly. She didn't flip the table. She didn't scream. She didn't send a 10-paragraph text at midnight. She just slowly, deliberately stood up and removed herself. That is not weakness. That is one of the most financially and emotionally intelligent moves a person can make. In money, the slow move is almost always the right move. The impulse decision, the revenge spending, the quit everything moment, the I'll show them investment. Those are the moves that destroy financial futures. The slow move, taking a breath, sitting with discomfort, letting the emotion pass before making a major financial decision, that is where real wealth is built. Maya, eventually, did not quit her business. She went home that night, cried for a long time, called one trusted friend, slept on it, and woke up the next morning and opened her laptop and kept going. 6 years later, her freelance business generates 3 times what her sister's corporate salary does. She owns property. She has an investment portfolio. She has options, real, tangible options, that she built herself from scratch while being told she wasn't enough. I'm not telling you that story to say money is revenge. I'm telling you that story to say other people's opinions of your financial journey are completely, utterly irrelevant to your financial outcome. The only thing that matters is whether you keep going. And to every person watching this who has been compared to a sibling, a cousin, a friend, a co-worker, who has been told in some way, directly or indirectly, that your financial position makes you less valuable as a person, I want to say this clearly: the people doing the comparing are usually the ones who never had the courage to build something of their own. Comparison is the language of people who measure worth from the outside. Wealth, real wealth, is built from the inside out. Your job is not to prove them wrong. Your job is to stop letting their voice live in your financial decisions. Audit your spending, not just for waste, but for motivation. Ask yourself honestly, why am I buying this? Why am I chasing this income goal? Why does this number on a screen make me feel safe or unsafe? Follow those questions all the way back to where they started, because that's where the real financial work begins. And if you find yourself pushed to the edge of a table, metaphorically or literally, remember what Maya did. Don't flip it. Don't freeze. Just slowly, with every bit of dignity you have, push your chair back, stand up, and keep building. I'm Dr. James, your money advisor. If this video spoke to something real in your life, leave a comment below. I read every single one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper on how your psychology is shaping your financial decisions, I've got more videos right here on this channel that will